Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm Christina and I am a mom of 5 kids from ages 18 months to 13 years old. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about all things read aloud. This is one of my favorite topics to discuss because I love reading, I love read alouds, and this video is part of a huge collab hosted by Megan over at Pennies and Salt. If you do not know Megan over at Pennies and Salt, you are in for a treat. Megan is a huge encouragement and resource to the homeschool community. A mom of 6, and she shares so much encouragement and information over on her channel. So be sure to check out her channel down in the description box below and the playlist to all of the other mamas and their read alouds. One thing that I really tried to do for the upcoming school year is not over plan in terms of read alouds. And I was like, I don't really have much to share with them because I didn't select a ton of read alouds. But then I started pulling everything out and I was like, oh my goodness, I have a lot of stuff planned for read alouds. So I don't want this to be overwhelming. I'm going to share with you my tentative plan, always subject to change, okay? Some of these things were intended to be on our summer reading list that I don't think we're necessarily going to get to, so I will share those things with you as well. So first I'm gonna give you a read aloud update, like where we are right now in terms of our read alouds. We are currently reading Farmer Boy. We have not gotten super far in this. I thought we would be further along in this, but we are not. We have been enjoying our summer. It was super rainy and then the weather broke, and so we have not done much homeschooling this week. We are really enjoying Farmer Boy. I have really fun stuff planned to go along with Farmer Boy, but that's just a little update on that. Another book we are also still reading, if you've been following, you know we've been reading this for a long time, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be following us into the school year, so you can count this as one of our read alouds. And this is The Prophet, the Shepherd, and the Star, and this is part of the Epic Order of the 7 series, and this is all about animals that follow biblical characters between Isaiah and the birth of Christ. So it is super cool, super interesting, also super long. So this will be following us. This we will definitely be finishing up because I also have a field trip planned to go along with this. If you missed my Heritage Letter video a few weeks back, you can check that out for what I have planned to go along with Farmer Boy. We also are dabbling a little bit in the 10 boys who use their talents, and I plan to pull more books from this series for the upcoming school year for read alouds as well as independent reading for my oldest 2 boys. So these are definitely on our list for both read alouds and independent reading. Next up, we have Johnny McKee and the Big Flood. Now, for whatever reason, my 10-year-old did not get super into this book. My boys love reading. This was one of the books that came for the summer reading from The Good and the Beautiful. My 10-year-old did not super love it. My 13-year-old, I shared with you guys, he read The Lost Kingdom in 2 days and absolutely loved it. So I think my 10-year-old is going to read that next. He also just finished up Island of the Blue Dolphin. Both of my boys read that and absolutely loved it. I am not giving up on this book. We are going to try this as a read aloud next year. So I'm really excited to try this out. I think this would be really interesting because we are starting the school year out with farming and food from Gather Round Homeschool. That is going to be our first unit study of the year, and I think it's cool because we'll finish up Farmer Boy. I have a fun field trip planned, and then we will read this. And the reason I feel like that fits and kind of connects is it says, after exploring the woods with his friends, Johnny McKee makes a quick trip to the nearby Rolfe Dairy Farm to see their horse, Red Boy. He could never guess the terrible situation he would cause due to a simple mistake. So we will tie this in with our farming and food curriculum, and this was just kind of one of those moments where I'm like, cool, that is going to work. I definitely want to try that out. There's a connection there. And that's a lot of how I choose read alouds, is just when there seems to be a connection between something we're already doing or something I want us to do. A lot of the times our read alouds tie into things that we're learning. Not always, sometimes we just pick a fun one because we want to read the book. So I say all this to say, we are gonna give this a try as a read aloud because I'm not giving up on it just because it didn't work as independent reading for my 10-year-old. So this is on our read aloud list for the beginning of the school year. I don't know if it'll be our first one or what, but this is going to be a read aloud for us next year. This is from The Good and the Beautiful. It is a level 4, which I think is fine. This will be kind of like a quick read aloud for us. This is a lot shorter than many of our other read alouds, so I kind of like to mix up bigger, longer read alouds with shorter ones. And I also just want to say, we typically don't ever have one read aloud that we are going through at a time. We typically have 2 or 3, to be honest, that we're working on at different times. We don't read them all every day. Like some days we will do 2 of our read alouds in that day. Some days we'll just rotate. It just depends. But we don't ever have one book that we're reading cover to cover before we start a new read aloud. So just another side note on how we approach read alouds in our homeschool. So that's on the list. So this is another book that we plan to start in the next month or so as a read aloud. This is The Elephant Whisperer, My Life with the Herd in the African Wild. And the reason why we're including this book is not only because I think it sounds really cool and interesting and I think my kids will like it, but also because we are currently reading through the Roots of the Earth conservation unit from Thistles and Biscuits. I did a flip through on that last week in my homeschool haul video if you're interested in that, but it's all about conservation, and this is about a real life conservationist who was trying to protect the elephants in the African wild. So I really feel like, again, this will be a really cool connection to kind of extend and deepen our understanding about conservation. Okay, so the next things I know I shared in a haul video about a month ago, but they are truly going to be on our read aloud list, so I'll share them briefly. And they are the Christian Heroes Then and Now books. So one of the other books that we will be reading coming up pretty soon is The Christian Heroes Then and Now about C.S. Lewis. And the reason is we are going to start the Chronicles of Narnia series. That was a series that was on our summer reading list that I do not think we will be getting to because I want to read this first. So I thought it'd be interesting to dig in and learn about C.S. Lewis and then jump into the Chronicles of Narnia. The other thing that's really interesting is that C.S. Lewis is in this book, so we read a short bio about him, then we're going to read a little bit more about him, and then we're going to read the Chronicles of Narnia, and I'm really excited about learning about the author, their Christian walk, and then reading their books. So we're going to read this, and then we are finally going to start the Chronicles of Narnia. I am not going to be that ambitious to say we will read these all next year. I just want us to start. Even if we only read 1, maybe 2, that is totally fine. I just want us to start these. If it takes us 2 years or 3 years, that's totally fine as well. I will share with you as a side note that I have 2 sets of these. These were gifted to us, and I thought about giving 1 set away, and then I thought I might actually enjoy having 2 copies. That's something I've done in the past where I had both of my older boys have a copy so that we do it as a read aloud, but they can follow along in their hard copy. For some kids, this may be really helpful in terms of keeping them on track and also helping with their reading and their fluency and all of those things. Not necessary, but could be a game changer for some kids who tend to zone out during read alouds. So this one, I am going to stick with having 2 copies of the whole series because I think this could be beneficial, especially if I end up assigning 1 or 2 of these as independent reading for the boys. And it'd be really cool because it's almost like their own little book group. They can read and then come together and either do activities along with it or just discuss and then share out as a family. So those are some more read alouds on our list for next year. Last thing that I want to share with you about the Christian Heroes Then and Now series. Again, I know I shared this on a previous haul video, but I also have these 3, and that is because they are in this To Every Nation, a study of 12 missionaries and their great God from Not Consumed Ministries. I shared in that haul video that I had already planned on implementing some of these Christian Heroes Then and Now books when I stumbled upon this study, and I was so excited because I liked how it causes us to dig in a little deeper. Now, I'll just mention really quickly, this is set up as a complete year-long curriculum. Now, C.S. Lewis is not on this list, and I kind of like that because it allows us to tackle our first Christian Heroes Then and Now book together as a family without any work attached to it, start our Chronicles of Narnia, and then this will count for some of the boys' independent work or kind of partner work that they'll do in their workbooks, because I got one for each of them, and then it will also serve as read-alouds. I may just have my 10-year-old read the Corrie ten Boom one because my 13-year-old read The Hiding Place this last year and absolutely loved it. So if he wants to read this again, or if he thinks we should read it as a read aloud, we will. So I'll kind of include them in on that decision. But if he's like, you know what, I think it's too repetitive, then I'll just assign this one to my 10-year-old. And it still will work because what I like about this is that you don't have to read all of the books to do this. So you could read none of the books and just use the short bios that are included, or you could select just some of them that you want to read the full book on, and some of them that you're like, we don't need to read a whole book, we're not that interested in that one. So I'm not sure if we'll read all 12 books. I may kind of let my boys pick and choose after we do the first 3 and see which ones they want to read. Like maybe we'll read the short bio and then say, hey, is this one that you're interested in knowing more about? If so, we'll grab the book and we'll do that. So I like including them in on some of those decisions. So that is way more than I thought that I had to share with you guys. I will share really briefly some of the ways that we implement read-alouds in our homeschool in case you're hoping more for that information. We do read-alouds as an entire family. Some days this works beautifully, and some days we're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to do this later because the 18-month-old and the 2.5-year-old are just wreaking too much havoc. It's not going to happen. I do want to share with you really quickly what I do for them to try to make it work, and it sometimes works beautifully, but I'll also share with you that sometimes it ends up that just me and my older 3 kids do the read aloud. There are some read-alouds that I'll do with just the older 2 boys if it's a book that I feel like isn't quite age appropriate for my younger 3 kids. And so it really depends on the book. I really like not limiting us to only books that the whole family can read, but for us to always have something that the whole family can read together, because my husband really likes to be included in the read-alouds as well, and I love all of us doing that together as a family. So like Farmer Boy, we all read together. The Prophet, the Shepherd, and the Star, we often all read together. So one thing that I do for the younger kids while we do read-alouds is I'll use busy bins. So I'll pull out sometimes a related busy bin to the book we're reading, and sometimes it has nothing to do with what we're reading, and that's totally fine. It's really just to keep them busy and try to keep them with us while we're doing it, but allow us to actually be able to hear and follow along with the read aloud. So I do plan to share my farm busy bin in one of my upcoming videos because it is one that I've been building and preparing to use not only as we continue to read Farmer Boy, but as we move forward into our actual farming and food unit from Gather Round Homeschool. So I'll be sharing that farm busy bin in an upcoming video if you're interested in seeing what I put in there. Some of my busy bins are very simple, like there's only 1 or 2 things in there. For example, I have a train busy bin, which is a train set, the trains, and the little engine that could. 1 book and a train set, that's all that's in there. I have a bird busy bin that I've shared on here before that has more things in there. And then my farm busy bin is starting to really be beefed up with a lot of different activities in there. And so I'm super excited for that, and I'll share that with you guys maybe next week. Other quick things that I'll share about how we do read-alouds is we like to take turns. So I'm not always the only one reading the read-alouds. Sometimes I am. Sometimes they just want me to read to them, and I'm totally fine with that. But other times we take turns reading, and that works out really nicely and kind of helps keep people paying attention and interested and gives everyone a turn to read and then just relax and listen as well. So don't be afraid to have your kids take turns reading aloud if that is not something you are already doing. It really does truly help with their fluency to read aloud. And it also helps significantly with their fluency to hear you read aloud, to hear what it sounds like when somebody reads fluently. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these books, if you think you will be adding any of these books to your list. Don't forget to check out the playlist below if you are looking for more read alouds to add to your list for next year. Definitely make sure you go check out Megan from Pennies and Salt. Her video and her channel, she is again hosting this collab. I'm definitely going to be checking out the other mamas videos as well. If you are here from one of the other channels, welcome. I hope you stick around. Click that red subscribe button. Click the notifications bell so that you know when I have another video coming up. If you are not already following me over on Instagram, you can follow me over there at rooted_homeschool. I share more day-to-day life and kind of a look into how we implement these things on a daily basis. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos. Until next time, stay rooted.